Hello and welcome to another Construct 3 tutorial. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to add ladder movement to a platformer style game. So I've got my little alien character here and now I want to add in my ladder sprite so I have something to climb on, and then we'll go ahead and do all the coding involved with it. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and right mouse click, insert new object, choose sprite, and I'm going to bring in actually two ladder segments. One will be a midsection of the ladder and the other one will be the ladder top. You don't have to do the ladder top, it just looks a little nicer. Okay, so I'll call this ladder mid, insert, left click to place it, and I'm not going to be creating my own artwork, my own assets today, so I'll be using one of the ones I used in one of my last screencasts, and this is by the artist named Kenny. So I'm going to choose load image file. I'm going to go to the folder called Platformer Art Complete, and I'm going to go here to the folder called Base Pack. I'll go down here to Tiles and scroll down until I find ladder. So there's a ladder mid and then there's a ladder top, and you can see it's there. So I'll choose ladder mid. Okay, so there it is there. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to set up the image point, and this is going to help you with placing and everything. So I'll choose image point, then I'll come up here, I will right mouse click, and I'll choose quick assign, and I'll just choose bottom, and that puts it right there in the bottom middle. And that just helps place it in our layout. Next, I'll come over here, and underneath the image point, I'm going to choose the collision polygon. So this is pretty complex. We don't need all of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select basically all of these and press the delete key. So all we need are 4. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this one in here. We're going to put it in the center here. I'm going to choose a nice even number here. And when you click on them, you can actually set the X and the Y coordinates. So I'm going to settle on an even number. I'm going to choose 26 for X. There we go. And then I'll click on this one here, and I'll choose, you can copy the same number, so I'll choose 26. So that way they're nice and even. Then I'll set the top one over here, and we want it, I'm going to settle on about 40 for the X. And then just come down here, set this one, and make sure that's also set to 40. Okay, so we have this nice collision box in the center, and it's not perfectly centered. It could be a little bit further out, maybe 46. Here we go, and this one can be 46. Okay, so the collision box is in the center, and what this is going to do is when the character comes overlapping the ladder and the character collides with this invisible box here, then the magic will happen and the character will be able to go up the ladder and then down the ladder. And so we're just setting it in the center here. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We can go ahead and close that, and you see our ladder is placed in our scene. So now let's talk about placement. So I'm going to go ahead and just place it here. And to make a copy of this, I'm on the Mac, so I'm going to hold down the Command key. When I hold down Command, I can just drag off a copy. But the problem is that if I just Command and left click and drag, it's not going to be even. I mean, you can try to eyeball it, but it's just not a very good job. So what you can do is when you hold down the Command key and you left click, if you then immediately press the Shift key, it will snap your movement up, down, left, and right, and you can see it kind of jumping. So I held Command to duplicate and Shift to move it on just straight up. So again, Command to duplicate, Shift, and then left click the mouse and you can pull out the third one. Now you'll notice in here I have a little bit of space in here, so I'm just going to select the ladder and maybe use my up and down arrow keys to make sure that it is nice and seamless. Okay, so there we go. So I think I'll do one more here. I'll use my down arrow key to just nudge it into place. Okay, good. And then last but not least, I'll go ahead and I'll do the sprite and I'll do ladder top. There we go. Left click to place it. Load the image, and the image is in the same folder. There we go. Okay, so this collision doesn't need to be, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward. So you basically want the exact same settings. So I'm going to set my image point, so it's right here in the bottom. And of course, I've forgotten, I know this one was 46, I believe. And then I think this one was 26. See how good my memory is. Okay, so this should be 26. Good, and this one can be 46. There we go. Okay, so that works out pretty well. And here I'm just going to have to eyeball it. So I'll just zoom in, use my arrow keys to just nudge it around, and hopefully there we are. Okay. Okay, so that looks pretty seamless. I may have to fiddle with it a little bit, but that looks pretty good. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in a platform. So I'm going to do insert new object. This time, instead of a sprite, I'm going to bring in a tiled background. You'll see why in a moment. And this is going to be, let's see, I'll just do grass. Let's do plat grass. Okay, so I'll left click, load image, and on this one I'm going to go ahead and just choose a, I'm going to choose this one right here. I'm choosing a half, that one's not bad. I think I'm just going to go ahead and choose this little half block right here. So I'll go ahead and open that up, and I'll place it in here. And you'll see that because I chose a tile background, you'll see that I can basically make it as big as I want. I'm going to go ahead and drag it up, and I'm going to maybe make it 4 wide. And I'm going to place it right about here. And you'll see that it's on top of the ladder. So what I can do is I'm going to right mouse click, go to Z order, and choose send to bottom of layer. And now it's actually behind my ladder there. While I'm at it, I'm going to check my player is behind my ladder. So I'm going to right mouse click on my player. I'm going to choose Z order, and I'm going to say send to top of layer. So now the character is actually on top of the ladder. So that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to make sure that my ladder object is all good, that I don't have, you can see this little bit of yellow here. So I'm going to make sure there's no flicker, and then I'll come back when I've got it all set. Okay, we're back, and I'm going to go ahead now and add in a climbing animation for my little alien character here. So I'm going to go to my character, and over here where I have animations, idle, walk, and jump, I'm going to right mouse click over here and choose add animation. I'm going to right mouse click and rename this, and I'll simply call it climb. Then I'm going to come down here where it says climbing frames. I'm going to right mouse click, import frames, and I'm going to say from files. So I'm going to go back to my platformer folder here, and I'm going to go into this folder here called extra animations and enemies, alien sprites, and I'm going to come down here where I find the blue alien, and you'll see that I have 2 frames, climb 1 and climb 2. So a real simple 2-frame animation. So I can hold down the shift key and select both frames, choose open, and now they show up down here. I'm going to right mouse click on frame 0 and choose delete, and now you can see here's my little animation here. Okay, I'm going to select the climb animation, and I'm going to change the speed. I'm going to bump it up to about 8, and that looks pretty good there. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to check this character's image point. It's right in the center, so I'm going to right mouse click, quick assign to the bottom, and then I'll just right mouse click and I'll say apply to whole animation. And that way now on the second frame, he's got the image point down there as well. Okay, so that's pretty good there. I forgot to add in on the character's climb animation, we do want to set it to loop. So there we go. That way the character continues his animation as he's climbing up the ladder uninterrupted. To see a preview of your animation, you can basically come up here to the animation, right mouse click and choose preview, and you'll see because it's set to loop, he'll just do his little wiggle there. So that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we need to get into the actual mechanics of making the climbing process work. So I'm going to select my player, and I'm going to come over here to the properties window, and I'm going to come up here to where it says instance variables, and I'm going to click on add instance variable, add new instance variable, and I'm going to go ahead and simply call this one climb. I'm going to leave it as a number, and I'm going to leave the initial value as 0. So basically the way this is going to work is we're going to, the instance variable is going to tell the game whether the character is on the ladder or off the ladder, and then depending on whether it's on the ladder or off the ladder, it's going to then be able to climb. So it's kind of like an on-off switch that we're using this instance variable for. So if the value is set to 0, the character will be able to climb the ladder, and if the value is set to something else, the character won't be able to climb the ladder. So hopefully that helps explain it. So there's our new instance. It's called climb, and there we go. Okay, we're now going to add in a new behavior. So select your character, come here to behaviors, add a new behavior, and the behavior we want is 8 direction. 8 direction is going to allow our character to go up and down the ladder. So come over here, and I'm going to tell you the settings here where it says 8 direction. I'm going to tell you the settings that worked for me, and then you can later on, after you get your ladder movement working, you can come in here and you can change some of the numbers until you're pretty happy with it. Okay, so let's take a look at the settings. I'm going to change the max speed from 200. I'm going to change it to 100. We're going to change the directions from 8 directions. We're going to change it to simply up and down. We're going to do the set angle. We're going to set that to no. And we're going to uncheck the enabled checkbox so it's not initially turned on and activated. Let's go ahead and save. Okay, so now that we've got that, we can go ahead and now come over to our event sheet. And under our event sheet, I'm going to start off by right mouse clicking and choosing add group. I'm going to call this group ladder movement. And trust me, it's going to be quite a few events that we're going to need to do, so it's nice to put them inside this folder here, inside this group. Okay, so now that we've got this folder here, we're going to click on add event to ladder movement, and we're going to choose player, and you want to look for down here under collisions, you want to choose is overlapping another object, and you want to choose the stairs, or the ladder, sorry. So I'm going to choose ladder mid. And I think what I'm going to do to make this a little bit easier is I'm going to go ahead, and even though it looks maybe nicer to have this top ladder here, that's going to make the coding a little bit more complex. So what I think I'll do is I'll just go ahead and use this as a top here. There we go. Something like that. Okay, good. All right, moving on back. Okay, so I've got my player overlapping with the ladder mid. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my action, and it's going to be player, and I'm going to set the value. So I'm going to come down here to instance variables, and you remember we made an instance variable called climb. I'm going to choose set value, and if I had more instance variables there would be a pop-up here, but I'm just going to choose climb, and I'm going to set the value to 0. Okay, so it's basically saying that when the character is overlapping with the ladder, set the climb value to 0. Now what we want to do is we want to come right here to where it says is overlapping ladder mid. We want to right mouse click on it and we want to choose invert. And that red X means that when the player is not overlapping with the ladder mid, set climb to 0. Okay, we're going to add in a second action that's going to be player. And this one is going to be, we're going to come here to where the behavior is 8 direction, and we're going to choose set enabled. And when you choose set enabled, you get 2 choices, either enabled or disabled, and we want it to be disabled. Okay, and then we're going to add our third action, player, and we're going to scroll down now to the platformer category. Here we go, platformer category, and we're going to choose set enabled. This is going to be turned on to enabled. So what this basically means, if this is confusing you at all, is that it says that when the player is not overlapping the ladder, so when the player is anywhere not touching that ladder, the climb variable gets set to 0. The 8 direction, which is the up and down movement, is turned off, it's disabled, but the character can still use his platforming abilities so he can jump up and go down and move left and right. So that's basically what all of those mean there. Okay, so now we're going to add a second event. It's going to be the player is overlapping another object, ladder. Okay, so now this is going to be the opposite of this first one here. So this is going to be when the player is overlapping the ladder. But we need some other conditions. The player has to be pressing the up arrow or the down arrow. So I'm going to select this event right here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say add another condition, and it's going to be keyboard and on key is pressed, and I'm going to choose the up key. And actually, let's see here. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. So I just said that I wanted you to add another condition by right-clicking and doing add another condition. What we actually want is we want it to be a sub-event. So I apologize about that. So you may have to click that condition you just added and just delete it. Okay, so we're back to the players overlapping the ladder. I'm going to right mouse click, I'm going to go to add, and this time instead of add another condition, I'm going to choose add a sub-event. So adding a sub-event, I'm going to choose keyboard, and I'm going to say on key is pressed, and I'm going to choose the up arrow. Say OK and done. Okay, so now you can see this is the sub-event. It's underneath this other one here. I'm going to go ahead and now I need to do what's called an OR block, and that's going to allow me to be able to choose the up arrow or the down arrow. So I'm going to select this keyboard one here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose make OR block. Okay, now you won't see anything happen yet, but now you will. Now I'm going to right click. I'm going to add, whoops, actually let me right click here. I'm going to now add another sub event, keyboard, key press, and this time it's the down arrow. And funny, it didn't make it an OR block. I'm not sure why. Let me try that again. So I'm going to say add sub event here. Key is down. Let's try down arrow here. Nope. Okay, so it's giving me some problems here. Let me see if I can figure it out, and I'll come. Okay. So what I figured out is I'm coming here to this keyboard sub event. I'm right clicking and I'm choosing add, and I'm going to choose add another condition. It's going to be a keyboard on key pressed, and it's going to be down arrow. Hit OK, hit done. Okay, so here's the OR right here. So we made this first keyboard event, we made that an OR block by right mouse clicking and choosing make OR block. And then when we added this one in, you can actually see the OR. Okay, fantastic. All right, now what we want to do is we want to take these three actions over here and copy them and add them down here. So click on the first action, hold down the Shift key, click on the last action, and it will select all three. Now to copy them, you're going to hold down the Command key, and you're going to left click and drag, and this part is really specific. You want the black arrow to be right here in line with the keyboards, not up here where the player is overlapping the ladder, but down here. And then when you let go, you'll see that now these three actions are basically in line with the keyboard here. Okay, so now we're going to change some of these settings. We're going to double click Set Climb, and we're going to set climb to a value of 1. And then we're going to reverse these. We're going to set the 8 direction to enabled, and we're going to make the platformer behavior disabled. So again, what happens is that when the player overlaps the ladder, the climb variable changes to 1, which you won't really see anything happening. The 8 direction is enabled, it's activated, turned on, and now the character can go up and down. And then the platformer behavior is disabled. And the reason why this is important is because when you press the up arrow, if you press the up arrow and you're doing the platformer, your character will jump. If you press the up arrow and the 8 direction is working, your character will just move up. So that's why we're having to turn these things on and off. So now what we need to do is we need to add a new event, and this is going to allow the character to interact with the platform that the character is trying to climb up to. In this case, it's my plat grass. So okay, I'm going to say player, and I'm going to do collisions. Okay, so on collision with another object, and I'm going to choose my platformer. And now I'm going to add in a, oops, we're getting a little crowded here. There we go. And I'm going to add in another condition, a keyboard condition. So I'm going to right mouse click, add another condition. This time it's going to be keyboard. If a key is down, and I'm going to choose the down arrow, this is going to help the character climb down. Okay, so now if it's here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these three actions again, hold down the Command key, and I'm going to drag them down here. So there we go there. Okay, so the climb should be set to 0, the 8 direction should be disabled, and the platform should be enabled. So there we go there. Okay. Okay, so our next step is we're going to add an event. It's going to be a keyboard event, and this is going to handle when the player releases the up or down arrow keys. So it's going to tell Construct what to do when the player is not pressing the up and down arrow keys. So we're going to choose, let's see, we're going to choose on key released. We're going to choose the up arrow. There we go. Now we need to make this an OR block again. So you're going to right mouse click. Whoops. You need to right mouse click on the left hand side. That's really important. You'll notice that I get to make OR block here, but if I right mouse click over here, I don't get make OR block. So you really have to select the left hand little arrow over here. So right mouse click, make OR block. Again, remember, you're not going to see anything happen here. I'm now going to right mouse click again, and I'm going to say add another condition, keyboard, on key released, not any key released, but on key released, and this time it's going to be the down arrow. And now you see the OR block is there. Okay, so then I'm going to left click over here on the arrows to select all of them. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say add sub event. And the sub event is going to be the player. And I'm going to come down here to where it says instance variables, and I'm going to say compare instance variable. And I'm going to say when the value is set to 1. So the climb value is set to 1. Say done. Okay, so now I'm going to add in my action, and the action is going to be player. I'm going to go down here to instance variables, and I'm going to say set value, and I'm going to set the value to 2, and done. Okay, so just take a moment and go over that. Hopefully that will make sense, and let's not forget to save. Okay, we are on our last 2 steps, and this is to tell Construct when to play and when to stop the climbing animation. So we're going to go ahead and say add event. It's going to be player. We're going to scroll down and choose compare instance variable. And this time we want to set the value to 1. So when the player's climb variable equals 1, what's it going to do? Well, it's going to player, and it's going to set animation. And for the animation here, you're going to type in open quotes, and then this little pop-up list comes up here, and so I'm going to just go ahead and choose climb. You can manually type it in there, but you just need to make sure you do the quotation marks at the beginning and at the end. Okay, so there we are there. We're pretty much all set. I'm going to go ahead and add another event. This is the last event. It's going to be player, compare instance variable, and this is going to be set to 2. So if the climb variable is set to 2, and you remember up here, that's where you see the set the climb to 2. If the climb variable is set to 2, then what? So I'm going to take this action right here, and I'm going to hold down the command key and just drag it on down here. So if the climb variable is set to 2, it's going to set the animation to climb, and then I'm going to add another action, which is then going to tell it to stop its animation. Okay, so even if this doesn't all make complete sense, pause the video here so you can just copy all of my settings here. Okay, so that should be it. So this is where we cross our fingers and we see what we've got. So go ahead and press play. Okay, so I can move left and right, I can jump, and that is the platformer behavior working. But as soon as I overlap the ladder, now I can actually climb up, and you can see I can climb down. Whoops, need to fix that. Let's fix that. Just change my Z order. There we go. Should be good. Okay, so I can climb up the ladder, and oops. Okay, so I can climb up and I can go down. So the ladder behavior is working. The only thing is my platform here I don't believe is solid. So let me go to behaviors and add in a solid. I could also use jump through. I'm going to try solid and see how that works. Okay, so the overlapping is working. Ah, yep, that's what I thought. So I can't do solid because then, no kidding, my character can't go through. So the solution is jump through. So there we go. So that way the character can climb from below and do that. So sorry about that. There we go. Character can climb through and be on top, and I just collected it. Awesome. Come over to the ladder. Notice I can't fall through, and I can do the down arrow, and then I can go down. So it does kind of fall down quickly, but yeah, so I'm not crazy about that. Maybe what I can do is I can select my character and come over here to the 8 direction and change some of these numbers here, acceleration and deceleration, and that'll help that out. So I hope this makes sense, and I hope it takes a semi-complex topic and makes it a little bit easier for you. I wish you luck, and happy game developing.